Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, American Comics. Under Loki, the Frozen Fruit Ability. Chapter 41. Task 4. Congratulations to the host for becoming the King of Jotunheim. Please make persistent efforts to become a wise king. After the task is completed, you will receive a generous reward from the system. It is detected that the host has completed the task according to the system requirements, and the reward settlement is started. The mission is settled. Congratulations to the host for receiving the reward for this mission. The reward skills have been issued, please check it yourself. It is detected that the host has found a partner who can be with him for life, and his life has entered a new stage. To congratulate the host on his wedding, this system is presenting a special gift package, please check it by yourself. A moment in the spring night is worth 1,000 gold, and the bridal chamber cries all night. After an in-depth exchange with Sif last night, Loki is now in harmony with yin and yang, with mutual support between hardness and softness, and he feels refreshed. What made him even more excited was that when he got up early in the morning, he saw the system reminding him that the fourth main task had been completed, and the system rewards had been distributed. And the system, which has always been stingy, even sent a special gift package to his wedding attendant. Because he was busy with errands last night, the system directly muted the notification. However, this kind of anticipation of being able to personally reveal the reward content of the system will actually make Loki even more excited. So when he saw these two system prompts, Loki couldn't help but sing loudly. After waiting for a long time, I finally waited for today, and I dreamed for a long time and finally realized my dream. Think about how long it has been since Loki received a reward from the system. Since he became the King of Jotunheim and completed the mission content of Mission 3 Prince's Revenge, he has hardly received any system rewards. Then the Mission 4 released by the system is another long-term mission that cannot be completed in a short period of time. Loki feels that he has been completely controlled by the system now. Although the system sent out 3 side missions one after another, what should I say about the rewards I got? I can't say it's very common, but it's not very meaningful. It's all about the booster pack for getting the reward skill in Mission 3. For Loki, whose strength has broken through the level Godfather, to describe it in one sentence is, tasteless to eat, but a pity to throw away. But this time is different. Although the rewards of side missions have always been uneven, the rewards of main missions have never disappointed Loki. And Loki is also full of expectations for the big gift package of the system follower. After all, who doesn't like to open a blind box? Loki didn't directly click on the content of the system rewards rashly, but first washed his face seriously, and then burned 3 sticks of incense with a sense of ritual. After completing all this, he opened the system interface again, ready to view the task rewards and special gift packages issued by the system. However, just when he was about to open the task reward, an unexpected event interrupted his opening of the package. The magic imprint I left in the Kamar Taj Supreme Mage Holy Place has been activated. The last time Loki's sigil was activated was the last time. At that time, the former Supreme Mage Dayeshi sacrificed his soul to build Kamar Taj, the hero's soul dwelling place, Soul Castle. The young mage Yao inherited the mantle of Dayeshi and became the new Supreme Mage. And this mage Yao is actually the future teacher of Doctor Strange, the famous Ancient One mage. Since the last time they parted ways with Ancient One, the two haven't seen each other again. Loki was busy with Jotunheim's business, and Ancient One didn't initiate contact. This time Kamar Taj's magic seal was activated again, and Loki didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. Because of being too tired last night, Sif has not woken up yet. Loki found the guards of the palace, left a message to Sif, and then used the flying Thor to disappear into the palace of Jotunheim. As soon as Loki teleported to the holy place of the Supreme Mage, the whole person immediately became vigilant. He had a keen perception that there was a strong aura of dark energy remaining here. This is the Mephisto of the dark dimension, the breath of Dormammu. Loki is very familiar with this feeling. He was once attacked by a mage who was bewitched by Dormammu. Coupled with the fact that there was no one in the at the moment holy place, Loki began to wonder if Ancient One had been attacked by Dormammu believers, and then sent a distress signal to himself through the magic imprint at a critical moment. But thinking about it carefully, it seems unlikely. In Loki's impression, the Ancient One 50 years ago was already a very powerful mage. In addition, After Ancient One became the Supreme Mage, Loki also taught the opponent the magic of the Flying Thor series and the Spiral Pill series created by himself, and at the same time mastered artifacts such as the Eye of Agamotto. Loki couldn't imagine how powerful the enemy must be to capture the Ancient One without causing any damage to the holy place. And even if the enemy is really strong, Ancient One is no match. With the secret door of Kamar Taj, and the Flying Thor that Loki taught her, 2 big space magics are in hand. Who can stop Ancient One if she wants to leave? There's something weird, there must be something weird about it. Loki frowned and mused. In just a few minutes, Loki has ruled out 9981 impossible hypotheses in his mind. Just when Loki was about to change his mind and continue to reason about what happened in the holy place, Ancient One stepped out of the portal and appeared in front of him. When Ancient One saw Loki for the first time, her eyes not only showed her surprise that Loki appeared in the holy place, but this surprised look was fleeting, and was quickly covered up by the happy smile on her face. Loki looked at the clothes on Ancient One's body. Her clothes were not damaged, and she was very neatly dressed. She didn't look like she just went through a fierce battle. But her face was pale, and there were still beads of sweat on her forehead. It was obvious that there was something wrong with her current physical condition. But what shocked Loki most was the appearance of Ancient One at the moment. The two hadn't seen each other in 50 years. But the appearance of Ancient One still looks the same as when Loki first met her 50 years ago. Combined with some of the information he knew as a time traveler, the truth of this whole matter will be revealed soon. Loki guessed that Ancient One at the moment should have been exposed to the energy of the dark dimension, and successfully used this energy to delay his own aging. That's why Ancient One at the moment looks so young. But stealing energy from Dormammu and using it is not an easy task. Ancient One may have been affected by Dormammu in his mind during this process, causing the dark energy in his body to lose control. And she entered the mirror space in order to control the energy that conflicted with Waishandi's white magic power. After some hard work, although she successfully controlled the dark energy in her body was still inevitably affected, which resulted in her current pale and weak appearance. But she didn't notice until she entered the mirror space that the runaway dark energy accidentally activated the magic mark Loki left in the holy place. That's why Ancient One was so surprised when he saw Loki for the first time when he returned to the holy place after solving his physical problems. I sensed that the magic imprint of holy place was activated just now, so I rushed over to take a look. But now, it seems that there is nothing that needs my help here. Could it be that you want to ask me to catch up on the past? Ancient One's expression was a little stiff, his mouth half opened, but he didn't know how to explain it to Loki. Seeing her appearance, Loki stopped playing around with her, and said straight to the point. You tried to communicate with the dark dimension. I can sense the traces of black magic left in the room. Ancient One just lowered his head in shame, but still didn't respond to Loki. I can tell even if you don't open your mouth. As a mortal, you have gained immortal youth, unless you are the illegitimate daughter of an Asgard who stayed in Midgard. Otherwise, this kind of thing that obviously violates the laws of nature, only black magic can do it. This time, Ancient One finally did not continue to keep silent. I did not steal energy from the dark dimension in pursuit of immortal youth and immortal life. Kamar Taj must have a supreme mage who can take on important responsibilities, otherwise, in the face of more and more frequent dimensional intrusions, Midgard will not be able to resist those powerful dimensional Mephistos. I have been trying to find a suitable heir among the mages like Dayeshi Mage did. But as I get older and my body functions gradually deteriorate, I have not been able to find a candidate who meets the requirements. So until I find a suitable candidate for the next supreme mage, I must persevere. For this reason, even if I have to use the power of black magic, I will not hesitate. Sigh, Loki sighed, your requirements are too high, Ancient One. Darcy once said that you are the most outstanding mage among all previous supreme mages. If you use yourself as the standard to select the next successor, it will definitely be difficult to find a suitable candidate. Why not try to relax some standards? Ancient One shook his head. It's not that I don't want to relax the standards, but the reality does not allow me to lower the requirements. For Mephisto, the dimension with almost eternal life, they will only become stronger and stronger. If one day our Kamar Taj can't keep up with the enemy's growing strength, then we will be helpless in the face of invasion. Such a thing will be devastating to our dimension. blow. So every supreme mage must become the best one among the previous supreme mages. Because only in this way can he support Kamar Taj's inheritance and responsibility, and continue to move forward. Loki nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, what Ancient One said. For Mephisto, the dimension with endless life, eternal time is the capital for them to become stronger. Dimensional Mephistos can afford countless failures for the occasional success. But on Kamar Taj's side, as long as they fail once, they will only be greeted with destruction. But how long can you last if this goes on? As long as these dark energies stay in your body for a day, Dormammu will find a way to constantly wear down your will and invade your mind. You have also realized how dangerous it was just now. Those dark energies may be out of your control at some point. If you are not careful, you may become Kamar Taj's greatest enemy from the Supreme Mage. With your strength, there will be no mage who can stand up and stop you. About this problem, I have been trying to solve it. Actually, whether it is black magic or white magic, the magic power that can drive them to exert their effects is essentially the same. But if this is the case, why has there always been such a problem since the emergence of magic? Mage of one magic system cannot use magic of another magic system. After decades of research, I finally discovered that the root cause of this problem is that the magic power that mages get from the source of magic power, in addition to the most basic energy, is also mixed with the will of the corresponding god. For beginners of magic, the existence of this divine will can help mage master and use magic more easily. However, for senior mage who already has rich knowledge of magic theory and experience in using magic, the existence of this god's will actually become an obstacle for them to explore other magic. So I thought, if these impurities that interfere with mages' use of other systems of magic can be removed, leaving only the purest energy, will it be compatible with different systems of magic? And after eliminating the will of the gods, it can also solve the negative impact of Mephisto, which can be said to kill two birds with one stone. Just now I was trying to realize this idea, but it was a pity that Dormammu discovered it at the last moment, which interfered with my thoughts and caused two different magical powers in my body to conflict. However, with this experience, I am confident that after my body recovers, I will be able to succeed in my next attempt. After hearing the idea from Ancient One, Loki was shocked. Because if Ancient One's conjecture is correct, then everything makes sense why, as the blood of the Frost Titan, he can learn the magic of Asgard but cannot learn the magic of Kamar Taj. In Asgard there is a very old tablet, which was born even before Asgard was founded. The slate records the birth and conquest of the first batch of gods in Midgard, and finally 4 gods persisted to the end. One of the 4 gods, the mother of the earth, Gaia, brought new life to the 9 realms. Before Loki read the content of this slate, he didn't quite understand the meaning. Today, after being inspired by Ancient One, and then contacting the mother of the earth, Gaia, which brought new vitality to the 9 realms, recorded on the slate, Loki finally realized it. Is there a possibility? Aesir Protoss, Frost Titan, and even other intelligent races in the 9 kingdoms are the vitality that Gaia, the mother of the earth, brought to the 9 realms. If the Aesir Protoss and the Frost Titan ancestors have the same origin, then it is not surprising that Loki, as a necromancer with the Frost Titan blood, is able to use the magic of the Aesir Protoss. After all, the will of the gods flowing in the blood of the two is in the final analysis the will of Gaia, the mother of the earth. After figuring this out, Loki feels even more that Ancient One's idea is correct. So he continued to ask, "What are you going to do? I can't imagine what kind of means can kill the will left by the gods." Ancient One smiled mysteriously, and deliberately whetted his appetite and said, "Guess what?" Loki rolled his eyes directly at Ancient One, and said in a slightly threatening tone, "Can you guess me or not?" All right. I won't be fooling around, okay. In fact, it's very simple. Since there are different gods' wills in the sources of magic power of white magic and black magic, then I just need to guide these 2 wills to fight and cancel each other out. What is left is the purest magic power. Hearing the answer given by Ancient One, Loki's pupils quivered again. You are literally dancing on a wire rope. If you don't pay attention, you will fall into the abyss. This method of Ancient One is indeed very ingenious, but it is also very dangerous. If you are not careful, you may offend the gods at both ends. Moreover, this process not only requires extremely delicate control of magic power, but also requires enough patience and care from the user himself. The actual operation is definitely hell-level difficulty. That is to say, a magical genius like Ancient One can not only think of this method, but also have the confidence to try it himself without the entire conjecture being verified. If it were an ordinary person, this would simply be courting death. But now there is just a chance to verify whether the will of the gods is the key to blocking different systems of magic. Actually, I don't need to wait until your next risky attempt. I now have a chance to verify whether your speculation is correct. Because I never thought about it before, I left such a blind spot in my knowledge system. To the extent that I have obtained this thing for so many years, I actually have a treasure mountain, but I am not allowed to enter it. As Loki spoke, he summoned the Millennium Block from the void. This is the skill rewarded by the system after completing the third mainline task. Since then, Loki has not carried the Millennium Brick with him, but has collected it into this space. Book friends can guess what the reward of Task 3 is. The magic power transformed from the energy of the 1,000-year building blocks is not mixed with the will of the gods. If I can use these magic powers, use the magic of Kamar Taj. Ancient One excitedly continued. That will prove that my guess is correct. When it comes to Kamar Taj's most commonly used and also the most classic magic, it definitely belongs to Gate of Secret Law. Wearing the sling ring, Mage mobilizes her own magic source and condenses it into a magic thread. Then, with the help of the sling ring, this is connected end to end with the magic thread, thus forming an arcane door. As long as Mage imagines the destination he wants to reach in his mind before casting the spell, he can connect the two places through the secret magic gate and reach any place he wants to go. However, for Loki, who developed the space magic of the Flying Thor series, he no longer needs to use the sling ring to help him sense the existence of space. I saw him mobilize the magic power from the 1,000-year-old building blocks, and then control the magic power to run according to the casting steps in his mind. Under Loki's one-stop operation, a secret gate connecting to the peak of Mount Everest appeared in front of Loki. Loki still couldn't believe it. Successful. Is it that simple? While Loki was still doubting himself, Ancient One, who had witnessed all this, was so excited that he started clenching his fists in celebration. However, Loki is still quite sensible. He poured cold water on Ancient One. Don't get too excited, what if it's just a coincidence? After all, black magic also has space magic similar to the arcane gate. We should verify more. Let's make a conclusion after a few spells. So next, Loki once again mobilized the energy in the Millennium Building Block, trying to use the second Kamar Taj's magic, the Ring of Gaglador. This magic is a magic that every mage of Kamar Taj will learn when they get started, and it is also the most basic magic. After using it, two circular magic shields will appear in the hands, and mages can attack or block through the magic shields. In addition, the Ring of Gaglador is also a starting method for many magics. During actual combat, it can suddenly change its moves and catch the enemy by surprise. And this time it was the same. Loki succeeded in his first attempt, with two more solid magic shields in his hands. After that, Loki experimented with all the magics he learned from the library during his study abroad in Kamar Taj. The Shape of Ache, the Thunder of Bozak, the Mirror Space, the Ancient Lord of Hogs, the Holy Sword of Visandi, the Crimson Belt of Cytoric, the Wind of Vadam, and the Shield of Seraphim. And every magic Loki is a one-time direct success. Until this time, Loki was finally 100% sure that Ancient One's conjecture was correct, and that the will of the gods was indeed affecting the mages' spellcasting. But what excites Loki the most is not that Ancient One's speculation has been verified, but that from now on, he can finally use the magic he learned in Kamar Taj. Loki feels that today is really his lucky day, and Sif is his goddess of luck. Because since yesterday's wedding ended, something good happened to Loki when we came together today. First, the system issued a reward for completing the task, and then gave him a special gift package to congratulate him on his wedding. Before he could check what these two things were, Ancient One unexpectedly summoned him and now sent him a Kamar Taj's magical family bucket. On a day like today, when the European atmosphere is overwhelming, when will the two items sent by the system, at the moment, not be opened? The rewards of the main task are definitely reserved for the last. Let me open the special gift bag that the system sends with members first, and see what good things are inside. Loki couldn't wait to call out the system interface, and then opened the mysterious special gift bag. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained the Skill King's Treasure Excalibur Supplement Pack. To congratulate the host on his wedding, there is no price increase for this supplementary package, which contains a total of 5 swords. Durandal, the head of the 12 knights, the holy sword equipped by the holy knight Roland. Possessing 3 miracles, it is a brilliant sword that does not lose its sharpness even if the owner's magic power is exhausted. Datherton, the cursed sword owned by King Hegni of Denmark. This sword has a powerful curse that causes destruction, and all holders will go to death. This is a magic sword that, once it is pulled out, it will not take life or return to its sheath. Gulam, the artifact that Odin bestowed on Sigismund, forged by the dwarf clan with the iron of the underworld, shines with the brilliance of a hero's victory and the holy sword that represents his heroic life. Spiral Sword, the magic sword held by Chongsheng hero Fergus Mark Roy in Celtic mythology. It can stretch and destroy opponents like a rainbow. Slaughtering Immortal Blade, the divine sword of Greek mythology, which is shaped like a sickle, with a blade on the inside. Although originally not excellent, the wounds after being injured by it are absolutely irrecoverable. This sword has the power to nullify the undead attribute. Durendar, Gulam, Spiral Sword, and Slaughtering Undead Blade are all good in terms of attributes. They can be taken back and given to Sif. She likes these things the most. As for Dasserton, what the hell is, this sword has a powerful curse that will cause destruction. What if it hurts the tender skin of my family Sif? Give me Jinbao curry to eat ashes. The content of this special package is quite rich, but it's not enough to get Loki excited. Because after completing Mission 3 and obtaining the Skill King's Treasure, Loki's system rewards for 3 consecutive side missions are all supplementary packs like this. Although there are not as many things as the special gift pack this time, after experiencing this kind of thing for a long time, there is no surprise at all. That's right, Loki tried his best to defeat Lof and become the king of Jotunheim. After completing the 3rd mainline task, the skill rewarded by the system is King's Treasure. But it's just King's Treasure, the system only gave Loki an empty shell, but didn't give him the treasures that were stored in it by Jin Yingying. Sure enough, the system was still the same system, as stingy as ever. However, the reward of this skill is definitely a surprise for Loki. After all, who is not a king anymore, without the collection of you, the king of heroes, Jin Jingying, can't I put the artifact of my king of Jotunheim in it? Calm down, calm down. This is just a special gift package given away by the system for free, and things are common at all. The system building rewards for the main task should be normal. After all, no matter how stingy the system is, it still has to follow the rules. Loki comforted himself a few words, then clicked on the system rewards for the main mission with a feeling of apprehension. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained the Skill King's Treasure Supplement Package. When Loki saw this, his heart suddenly went cold. He had seen this sentence 3 times before when he received the side task reward. And in these 3 experiences, the precious equipment supplement packs issued by the system were the Uruk Cup, the colorless top-grade fine wine, and the spiritual grass for rectifying the stomach. Uruk Cup, the vessel used by the hero King Gilgamesh to drink. Colorless top-quality wine, the wine collected by the hero King Gilgamesh. Spiritual herb to straighten the stomach. Eating this medicine can save you from the torment of dark cooking, but the disadvantage is that you will lose your sense of taste since then. When Loki saw these 3 system rewards, his face was so dark that he could squeeze out ink. Although later Sif proved with her cooking skills that some things are not worthless, but they have not yet come across the time when they need to be valuable. The colorless top-quality wine also makes Jotunheim invincible at diplomatic receptions. But if given a choice, Loki would rather endure the torture of Sif's dark cooking, and would like to change to a more powerful noble phantasm. Fortunately, everything was just a false alarm, and the system did not give up its bottom line. After seeing the second half of the system prompt in the next second, Loki's heart that fell to the bottom rose to the clouds again. The Lock of the Sky, the anti-god treasure, the most trusted treasure of the hero King Gilgamesh. The role of this treasure is to regulate the gods. The higher the divinity of the captured person, the harder the chain will be, and the harder it is to break free. On the contrary, for those who do not possess divinity, this is nothing more than a relatively stronger chain. Seeing that the treasure in the supplementary bag of the system this time turned out to be the Skylock, the whole person was so excited that he couldn't help but tremble. The ability of Tianjisuo, to put it bluntly, only plays high-end rounds and does not play low-end rounds. Having this noble phantasm in the king's treasure is like a tiger with wings added to Loki. In fact, with Loki's current strength, there are very few enemies who can threaten him. Even if the strength is not as good as that of the opponent, relying on Mokobatmo's time-stop ability, he can easily escape. But most of the time, evasion is not only shameful, but also useless. It was as if Loki had to confront Ego in order to keep Asgard, and Ancient One, as the Supreme Mage, had to stand up to the Dimension Mephisto. At such times, means that can effectively deal with these enemies are needed. And with the lock of the sky in your hand, no matter you are a god, an ancient god, a Mephisto or an old ruler, you can only obediently catch Loki in front of Loki. Hey, teacher, is your face convulsing? Why are you able to complete so many expression changes in just a few seconds? Ancient One stretched out his hand and waved in front of Loki's eyes, looking at Loki's eyes full of curiosity. Being disturbed by Ancient One, Loki immediately recovered from the joy of winning the grand prize. No, I'm just happy for you. Now that your speculation has been proven to be correct, then you can try it boldly. Well, I will stay in Kamar Taj for a few days. After you recover from your injuries, I will protect you next to you. This way you can concentrate all your attention on purifying the source of magic power. Ancient One also nodded, accepting Loki's kindness. Well, I'll start healing now. This kind of injury, I can recover in less than 2 days. Loki. Well, let's set the time in 4 days and allow 1 more day for you to adjust your mental state. After all, you are using the will of the 2 gods. If something goes wrong, the consequences will be disastrous. In 3 days, not only did Ancient One need to adjust his state, but Loki, as the guardian of Ancient One, also needed to make some preparations in advance. System, open my personal attribute panel. Since Loki was 10 years old, he hadn't looked at his personal attribute panel in the system. On the one hand, it is because they are busy improving their own strength and completing system tasks, and on the other hand, because the system is too stingy, and originally there are not many skills, so it is naturally not worth opening and checking. However, with the accumulation of time, he completed more and more main and side quests, and received more and more quest rewards from the system. Coupled with the abilities he had learned and mastered and a series of magics created by himself, Loki thought it was time to reorganize his abilities. Host: Loki. Bloodline: Frost Titan. Strength: Level Godfather. Early stage early, middle, late, peak. Magic: Asgard magic, ability magic freezing, white magic, black magic. System skills: Kyoka Suigetsu, Devil Fruit, Frozen Power Kai, Ninja Genjutsu Kai, Moko Batmo, Kyoka Suigetsu Complete Hypnotic Ability. King's Treasure, Skylock, Uric Cup, Colorless Wine of the highest grade, Stomach Rectifying Spirit Herb, Durandal, Desetin, Gorum, Spiral Sword, Slaughtering Undead Blade, Flying Thor's Dagger, 1,000-year-old building blocks, a large amount of scrap copper and rotten iron made by the Dwarf clan. Self-created skills: Flying Thor series, Helix Pill series, Immortal mode unfinished. It has not been sorted out in a centralized manner before, and now it will be displayed here in a unified manner, and the number of words will not be frequently listed. How is the state today? In the Supreme Mage Holy Place, Loki and Ancient One met again after 3 days. I feel great now. Compared with 3 days ago, Ancient One's mental state is obviously much better. Although there was still no blood on his face, it was not because Ancient One's injury hadn't healed yet. Rather, it was a side effect of her use of dark energy to extend her life. Compared with normal people, Ancient One's heart rate and metabolic rate were reduced to a very low level. Most of the bodily functions are maintained through dark energy. In this case, let's start directly. After speaking, Loki pushed out with one palm towards the void, bringing the 2 of them into the mirror space. Ancient One nodded confidently, then sat down cross-legged on the spot, and began to mobilize the black and white energies in his body to intertwine with each other. The 2 energies are entangled with each other, constantly rotating, and finally slowly form a yin-yang fish pattern. After experiencing the first failure before, During these 3 days, Ancient One, besides healing, was also thinking about how to improve the success rate of the magic power purification process. In the end, she found the answer from the culture of a great ancient oriental country. As the saying goes, Taiji produces Liangyi, Liangyi produces 4 images, and 4 images produce gossip. Tai Chi is the state before the heavens and the earth are opened and chaos is not divided into yin and yang, which is very similar to the state formed by 2 different magic powers in her body. The development of the universe is a process from the infinite to the extreme, and to the metamorphosis of all things. This also coincides with her growth process from a mortal without magic power to becoming a teacher after gaining magic power, and finally being able to use magic power to cast all kinds of magic. So Ancient One took this as inspiration and created a new method of magic purification. What Ancient One is doing now is to extract the pure yin and yang from the magic source of chaos. And based on the yin and yang, it can break through the boundaries of the magic system and generate infinite changes. Once this Tai Chi yin-yang is fully formed, the entire process of magic power purification can be completed automatically in the future, and Ancient One no longer needs to worry about his will being corrupted by Dormammu all the time. Just as Ancient One entered the mirror space to try to purify the magic power again, the 3 magic holy places left by Agamotto in Midgard were facing an unprecedented crisis. During these 3 days, not only Ancient One and Loki were preparing for the attempt of magic purification, Dormammu and the fallen believers who were bewitched by it were also preparing for the invasion of the dimension where Midgard was located. Because of the Ancient One's previous failed attempt, Dormammu sensed that someone in Midgard was stealing magic power from his dark dimension. And what makes Dormammu afraid is that the other party seems to have mastered the means to eliminate his will left in the magic power. This made Mephisto Dormammu, who is a majestic dark dimension, panic instantly. Because if all the mages in Midgard have mastered this method of stealing energy from him without being controlled by him, then wouldn't he become a cash machine for the mages of Midgard from now on? Mages can unscrupulously use magic power from themselves, and they don't have to worship him as a belief. And after losing his believers, he will never be able to break the barrier left by Agamotto, let alone have the chance to conquer the dimension where Midgard is located. But what Dormammu doesn't know is that this method of magic power purification is so difficult that even Ancient One, the most excellent existence among the previous supreme mages, cannot guarantee that he will succeed. So Dormammu's worries are completely unnecessary. Definitely, once Ancient One has successfully purified its magic power, it will undoubtedly become more difficult for Dormammu to invade. It was precisely because of the lack of information that Dormammu, driven by the sense of crisis in his heart, decided to completely nip it in the bud before everything he imagined happened. During these 3 days, Dormammu summoned all the mage he had bewitched in Midgard for so many years, for one purpose, that is to destroy the defensive barrier formed by the 3 holy places and welcome the coming of Mephisto Dormammu. Thus, Ancient One and Dormammu both chose today as the day to implement the plan. Nearly 20 depraved mage who believed in Dormammu, divided into 3 groups to launch a surprise attack on the 3 holy places located in Asia, Europe and America. The fallen mages, who had received epic level enhancements from Dormammu, defeated the Kamartaj mage who was guarding the holy place when they were outnumbered. Soon, the 3 holy places fell one after another. With the fall of the last holy place, Agamotto's defensive barrier built with these 3 holy places as nodes also completely failed at the moment. Without the barrier of the enchantment, the fish on the chopping board in front of Dormammu in the entire dimension can be slaughtered by him. At the moment when the defensive barrier completely failed, the 2 powerful mages Loki and Ancient One finally perceived danger. At this time, Loki was born quickly, stopping Ancient One who was planning to interrupt the magic power purification. You stay here and complete the magic power purification with peace of mind, and I will deal with the outside real-world affairs. I can assure you that with me today, Dormammu's ambition to devour this dimension is doomed to fail. After the words fell, Loki summoned the 1,000-year building block from the king's treasure, then opened the door of the secret method and left the mirror space. And Ancient One's frown just now slowly relaxed, and he refocused his attention on the final process of stabilizing Tai Chi Yin and Yang. In the real world, as soon as Loki came out of the mirror space, he felt a strong attraction. This is like a meteor in the universe. When it encounters a mass of enough huge amounts of planet, it will be captured by the planet's strong gravity, and then fall to the surface of the planet as a meteorite. Compared to the dark dimension controlled by Dormammu, Midgard is that meteor, falling towards the dark dimension due to suffering huge amounts of attraction. Moko Potmo. Midgard is the center of the entire world tree system. Once Midgard falls, the other countries in the 9 realms will not be able to survive alone. So Loki definitely cannot watch Midgard become swallowed by Dormammu and become a nutrient for the growth of the dark dimension. As Loki casts Mokobotama's ability into effect, the movement of matter across the entire planet is forcibly frozen. Not even Dormammu, however powerful, could devour Midgard in the next 90 seconds. But at the same time, Loki must also successfully drive or subdue Dormammu within the limited 90 seconds. Otherwise, after the time stop effect of Mokbatmo ends, Midgard still cannot escape the fate of becoming Dormammu's lunch. Even if he had to fight against the power of an entire dark dimension with his own strength, Loki was still fearless in the face of danger. I saw him calmly, opening a portal to the dark dimension without changing his face, and then walked in without any hesitation. Dormammu abandons his body and integrates with the dark dimension with his soul. If Loki wants to repel Dormammu, he must enter the dark dimension. As soon as he entered the dark dimension, Loki saw countless corpses, connected in series by dark energy. These planets were once in their dimensions, where intelligent life was born and brilliant civilizations were created. But in the end, all of them, together with their own dimension, were swallowed by Dormammu and became the nutrient of the dark dimension. Only these corpses, left in the dark dimension prove that these civilizations once existed. And the dark dimension that has swallowed countless dimensions, its dimensional space is undoubtedly very vast. But even so, Loki quickly saw Dormammu's huge body constructed of dark matter from the gap in the planet's corpse. Even the god Ego, who has a whole planet as his body, is completely insignificant in front of Dormammu's body. Faced with the extreme oppression brought about by this size gap, in order not to let himself be at a disadvantage in terms of momentum from the beginning, Loki decided to start pretending. The enemy is in front of me, either run away, or be completely defeated. Dormammu, if you don't want to look too bad later, I advise you to be a mouse-tail juice, otherwise don't blame me for not talking about martial arts and bullying you, an old man. Dormammu couldn't remember how many years he hadn't been as excited as he is now, but for some reason, he was picked up by Loki with just a few words, making the 3 corpses jump violently. Are you looking for death? Little bug, your world belongs to me now, Dormammu. Since you want to die, then I will fulfill you. Roar. A breath of dark energy contained Dormammu's anger, directly submerging Loki completely in it. But in front of the divine skill, Mirror Flower and Water Moon, this simple energy attack can't cause any damage to Loki at all. While the black mist surged, Loki's body easily escaped Dormammu's attack range. To be honest, with Loki's current strength, Dormammu would be a very good practical opponent if the time is not tight. The two are similar in strength and have their own strengths. Loki can try all kinds of combination skills without fear, and greets Dormammu. It's a pity that Dormammu didn't come at the right time. In this case, Loki could only use his full strength to defeat him in a short time. The Lock of the Sky. This is also where Dormammu's luck is worst, because Loki got the anti-god treasure called Sky Lock not long ago. For an existence like Dormammu who has the concept of God in itself, the shackles of the Sky Lock are an inescapable existence. As Loki's voice fell, the Sky Lock emerged from the king's treasure. The chain is anchored in the void of the dark dimension, and under the pull of the shuttle, it quickly seals off the space around Dormammu. Immediately afterwards, the chains that had already laid a net began to shrink rapidly, and without giving Dormammu any time to react, they directly wrapped him tightly. Facing the shackles of the Sky Lock, even if Dormammu is the ruler of the dark dimension, at the moment is helpless. Little bug, what kind of method are you using? If you let me break free, I will not let you go easily. Dormammu kept roaring and trying to struggle out of the chains, but the more he struggled, the tighter the Sky Lock became. Even though Dormammu tried his best, he couldn't hurt the Sky Lock. As for Dormammu, who has lost his resistance ability and can only be impotent and furious, there are many things Loki wants to do. For example, Loki wants to try the Slaughter Undead Blade, which can invalidate the undead attribute. If it is used on Dormammu, what effect will it have? Does the slaughter undead blade, which can invalidate the undead attribute, have any effect on Dormammu? Loki's conclusion after experimenting is, don't know. Because the only advantage of this sword may be, can invalidate the undead attribute, it originally has nothing outstanding in terms of design, material selection or forging. So when Loki tried to use the slaughtering undead blade to kill Dormammu, an antecedent, this piece of trash couldn't even break Dormammu's defenses, so the test couldn't go on, and naturally there was no result. In this regard, Dormammu also quite proudly laughed at Loki's overreaching. But it doesn't matter, as a time traveler, Loki has a lot of whimsy. It's just that these ideas are too outrageous, and it's impossible to find a suitable test site and test subjects. If it weren't for the generous Dormammu, not only would Loki use his dark dimension as a testing ground for free, and also very sacrificing spirit, willing to dedicate himself to science, using himself as Loki's test subject. Such a noble soul moved Loki almost to tears, and then he turned his head and tightened the sky lock, letting it bind Dormammu even more firmly. Throw the waste treasure of the slaughtering undead blade into the king's treasure, and prepare to take it back as a gift to his daughter-in-law. Loki immediately took out another object with the same strange shape. However, this thing is neither a treasure nor a weapon, but a metal craft in the shape of a water drop that Loki asked the dwarf craftsman in Nidavel to make for himself. This metal water drop is about 3.5 meters long and has a mass of about 10 tons, which is similar to the file size of a small spaceship. The material used to make it is not ulu metal or other expensive materials, but the most common steel. Moreover, for such a useless metal craft, Loki also asked dwarf craftsmen to create more than one, and collected it in the treasure of the king. In fact, if this metal water droplet is placed in other people's hands, it will indeed have no value in the king's treasure. But when it appeared in Loki's hands, the situation was completely different. Loki remembered seeing such a detector in a science fiction novel in his previous life. Its shell is made of a strongly interacting material with tightly packed particles and little vibration between molecules, so the surface is close to absolute zero. Because this strong interaction force material is 100 times stronger than the common material composed of electromagnetic force. So although this device is called a detector, it can easily penetrate battleships and cities, just like bullets penetrate cheese. And the name of this detector is called water droplet in that novel. The metal water drop handicraft that Loki asked the dwarf clan to make for himself is an imitation of the big killer in the science fiction novel Water Drop. Definitely, this kind of imitation has not been realized in terms of materials, technology or function as a detector, except for the similar appearance. But don't forget, Loki, as an open time traveler, also possesses a skill that can turn waste into treasure Moko Botmo. In that science fiction novel, the civilization that made this detector is just a device inside the water droplet, allowing the strong interaction force of the shell material to overflow, and the surface is close to absolute zero. And the Mokobatama obtained by Loki from the system can directly create a low temperature of absolute zero, completely stagnating the movement of microscopic particles. Such an effect is even more perfect than those mentioned in science fiction novels. It has transcended science fiction and entered the category of fantasy. Under the effect of such a bug-level skill, even a metal droplet made of the cheapest steel can become an indestructible terrorist weapon. Now behind Loki, more and more drops of metal floated into the void as he called. Loki once again used the skill of Mokobatama. In order to protect the earth before, Moko Botmo has consumed 80 seconds of skill time today. With a big wave of his hand, Loki devoted the remaining 10 seconds of skill time to this experiment. And the metal water droplets that originally looked a little foggy on the surface, after being frozen at absolute zero, the surface turned into a smooth and flawless mirror surface. In the next 10 seconds, these water droplets will become indestructible and terrifying weapons. Under Loki's control, the water droplets that appeared behind him, like 10,000 arrows, were accelerated and launched from the king's treasure, and the target went straight to Dormammu's huge body bound by the sky lock. Compared with the slaughtering undying blade, which could not even break through the defense, the result of this attempt is quite different. Although Water Drop originally didn't have any special effects, it completely relied on its own kinetic energy to kill. But this kind of weapon with an extremely simple killing method left dense scars on Dormammu's body made of dark energy and dark matter. For a Dimension Mephisto like Dormammu, physical attacks can't actually cause him any damage at all. However, this kind of attack does not do much damage, but it is extremely insulting. Dormammu, who was still laughing at Loki just now, turned his head and was slapped in the face by Loki. Then it was another round of frantic struggle, trying to break free from the shackles of the sky. Definitely, Dormammu's attempt this time ended in failure, and then another incompetent rage. Sure enough, what has been done must be done again, and what has been done must be done afterward. Pluto sincerely does not deceive me. Ah, you little bug, you can't kill me. I don't believe that the ability of your chain can be activated forever. After I break free, I will make your soul suffer forever and ever. You will never win me, I am the ruler of this dark dimension, Dormammu. Loki felt that Dormammu's spirit had begun to become a little normal after being used as a test subject by himself, after experimenting again and again. Because he had already explained to Dormammu before that using the Skylock doesn't actually cost him much mana. Even with Loki's own magical power, it would be a breeze to persist for 10 days and half a month. What's more, he still has a 1,000-year-old building block, an inexhaustible source of plug-in magic power. So as long as Loki is willing to spend with Dormammu, Dormammu will not be able to escape the shackles of the sky until he dies due to exhaustion of life. Normally, a Dimension Mephisto like Dormammu, with his spiritual power, does not have amnesia or inability to remember. The current state of Dormammu can only show one thing, that is, there is a problem with his mental state. Definitely, Loki wasn't trying to drive Dormammu crazy. A crazy Dimension Mephisto will only cause Loki more trouble. In fact, as Dormammu said, there is no way for Loki to kill Dormammu, who is a Dimension Mephisto, unless he has the strength to directly destroy a dimension. Even with the help of the power of infinite gems in the Millennium building blocks, at least Loki needs to reach the peak strength of level Godfather to complete it. So by doing this, Loki is actually imitating Doctor Strange, who will succeed Ancient One as the next Supreme Mage in the future, and wants to force Dormammu to agree to the negotiation conditions he proposed. It's just that Doctor Strange used the time loop constructed by Eye of Agamotto to force Dormammu to negotiate terms with him. Loki, bound by the Skylock, put Dormammu on a cycle of mental torment. Now, just wait until Dormammu is tortured to the point of a nervous breakdown, then is the perfect time for Loki to start negotiations. As for now, the time has not come yet. It's definitely not that Loki hasn't played enough, absolutely not. Just when Loki was about to test his next imaginative idea, a space portal appeared beside Loki, and then he saw Ancient One coming out from the other side and standing beside Loki. Seeing Ancient One appear, Loki was stunned for a moment, then his eyes lit up instantly, and he asked Ancient One, "Successful?" Ancient One didn't hold back, nodded slightly, and responded directly, "Successful. What about your side? Can you get it done?" Ancient One asked Loki about the situation while shaking the Eye of Agamotto around his neck. The point is obvious, if Loki can't figure it out, she can help. She brought all of Kamar Taja's big babies. Loki waved his hand and said, "No, I can still handle a mere Dormammu. But you just completed the magic power purification. Do you want to use the purified magic power to cast a few spells and get familiar with your own power?" The meaning of Loki's words is to ask Ancient One if he wants to use Dormammu to practice his hands. Hearing this, Ancient One, who was eager to try, directly agreed. After all, as the Supreme Mage, she used white magic a lot on weekdays, and her spellcasting skills were naturally extremely proficient. But in order to avoid exposure of the fact that he stole energy from the dark dimension, the chances of Ancient One being able to use black magic are relatively rare. It is rare to have such a great opportunity, and Ancient One definitely will not let it go. She didn't say a word, and she started directly with a black magic of the Forbidden Curse level, and the creator of this black magic was Dormammu, who was tightly bound by the chain of the sky in front of her. Attack Dormammu in the dark dimension with magic created by Dormammu. I have to say that Ancient One has the ability to engage in mentality. If we talk about the beginning, it can be said to be a coincidence. Then after that, the black magic that Ancient One used one after another turned out to be created by Dormammu, which confirms that Ancient One was not careless but indeed intentional. And in order to disgust Dormammu, Ancient One also kept a part of the original flavor of the magic power in the black magic, and was committed to making Dormammu know that when he was hit by this black magic, what hit him was the black magic created by himself. For Ancient One's behavior that does not talk about martial arts, Dormammu's huge black face is also very cooperative, showing the classic expression of the man who wants to use swords. Finally, after repeated torment by the two torture kings, Loki and Ancient One, Dormammu said what Loki had been waiting for. Stop, this time, I admit defeat. Quote. Let's talk. What conditions must I promise you before you are willing to release me from the shackles? Loki looked at Dormammu, who was finally willing to bow his head and begged for mercy, with a wicked smile on his face. Now that Dormammu has been pushed to this point by himself, if he doesn't open his mouth like a lion, how can he be worthy of the hard work that he and Ancient One gave Dormammu just now? Our conditions are actually very simple. You see, since you have surrendered now, I ask you to take your followers out of Midgard and never invade again. This is definitely reasonable, right? Also, the 3 holy places left by Agamotto Mage are historical relics and cultural heritage. They were ruined by your believers just like that. Afterwards, we still need to spend manpower, material resources, time and energy to repair it. It's not too much to ask you for a little bit more. Needless to say, you must provide the magic materials needed to repair the holy place. There are also those Kamar Taj Mage who guard the holy place. This time, they were hit so badly by your believers. Maybe they will leave some psychological trauma. Are you saying that you should compensate hundreds or thousands of magic books as their mental damage? Is this a reasonable request? Besides, I am the king of Jotunheim. I wasted so much time because of your appearance today. You must pay me for appearance fees and lost wages, right? However, I am a kind-hearted person, so I will definitely not let you suffer too much. I think you have devoured so many dimensions, and you should have collected a lot of artifacts and magic weapons from various worlds, right? You just give me 1,000 or 800 pieces as compensation, so today's matter, I'm going to turn the page with you. If you can agree to all these requests, then I will take back the Skylock and let you leave here. To be honest, after hearing these simple conditions put forward by Loki, not only Dormammu, the client, stared wide-eyed, but even the bystander, Ancient One, was stunned. I didn't expect you to be such a Loki. If they didn't know the ins and outs of the whole thing, Ancient One would have thought that Loki was the big villain, and Dormammu was the little white rabbit who was bullied by the villain and was powerless to resist. She hurriedly reminded Loki in a low voice, "Hey, teacher. Are you asking too much for this? Be careful to push Dormammu into a hurry, and finally we will die. Don't worry, although we can't kill this fish, Dormammu won't try to tear through the sky-wide net laid by the Skylock." Loki gave Ancient One a reassuring look, and said confidently. Regarding the conditions proposed by Loki, Dormammu's first reaction was, impossible. Absolutely impossible. Let me leave with the believers and stop meddling in your world. I can agree. But even if I, Dormammu, are trapped to death by you, if I spend my time here, I won't compensate you for anything. Dormammu didn't know that when he said these words, he had actually touched a supreme rule force in the universe, the law of true fragrance. This means that soon after, Dormammu is bound to be slapped in the face by what he said at the moment. Thinking of this, Loki became more confident. So while applauding, he said to Dormammu, "Good. Very good. As expected of the ruler of the dark dimension, he really has backbone. Since that's the case, Ancient One, why don't you continue with the magic test just now? I remember this backbone Mephisto, but he created a lot of powerful black magic." With that, Loki tightened the chains around Dormammu again. The regulation of God, symbolized by the lock of the sky, is not just the bondage of the body. Its originally suppressed rule against the concept of God will also oppress the souls of those who possess divinity. Therefore, the restraint of Dormammu by the Skylock seems to be restraining his body, but it is actually oppressing his soul. After all, Dormammu gave up his physical body before becoming a dimension Mephisto. The current body is just fabricated by him in the dark dimension using magic power. But even Loki didn't expect that Dormammu's figure could be so soft. One second he was still talking stubbornly, and the next second Loki just tightened the chain. Dormammu directly changed his words and agreed to the conditions offered by Loki. Ah, it's a pity. Loki shook his head in disappointment. He thought, how could Dormammu last 2 or 3 more rounds? Unexpectedly, he agreed to the conditions he proposed so quickly, which made all the methods he had planned to use on Dormammu all in vain. Seeing Loki's appearance, Dormammu couldn't help shivering, thinking that it's a good thing he promised quickly, otherwise he wouldn't know what Loki would do to him later. At the same time, Dormammu was also very speechless about Loki's behavior. He just wanted to bargain. As the saying goes, asking for a lot of money, just sit on the ground and pay back the money. If you are dissatisfied with the cut in labor and capital, you can continue the discussion. There is no one like Loki who directly turned the negotiating table without saying a word. Ha 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 ha, those who know the current affairs are the best. I like to negotiate with smart people like you, Dormammu. The situation is better than others, and occasionally lowering your head is like moving your cervical spine. Don't you think so, Dormammu? Ah, that's right, you're right. Then, when will this chain loosen for me? What else can Dormammu say about Loki's dare? The situation is stronger than people. There is no rush to untie it. I think we should talk about the compensation first. The magic materials needed to restore the holy place, the magic books to be compensated to the mages, and the artifacts and magic tools I want. You take out the things first, and I will loosen the chains for you after I am satisfied. Anyway, we can run away as monks but not the temple, so you don't have to worry about my dishonesty. In the end, seeing Loki's expression of not intending to give in at all, Dormammu could only grit his back molars and agree, yes. Chapter 51. Welcome to come again next time. Loki, who has gained a lot, said while waving to Dormammu's fleeing back. Hearing that, the speed of Dormammu's departure accelerated a lot. He has already made up his mind, unless Loki dies in the future, or his own strength rises to another level, otherwise he will never take half a step closer to Midgard in the future. After Dormammu disappeared with his disciples, Loki and Ancient One did not share their spoils immediately, but came to the ruins of the holy place in the first place. Dormammu is not the only Mephisto coveting the dimension of Midgard. Before the next crisis comes, they must repair the 3 holy places as soon as possible, so that the defensive barrier left by Agamotto can be opened smoothly. Loki originally thought that this process would be very tense. After all, the amount of work to repair the 3 holy places is huge, and the mages of Kamar-Taj suffered heavy casualties in the previous battle. If you want to complete this work in a short time, it will definitely consume huge amounts of energy. But unexpectedly, Ancient One did not summon the mages of Kamar-Taj to help, but directly took out the Eye of Agamotto, and used time magic to reverse the time of the 3 holy places to the time before they were destroyed. I thought you, as the supreme mage, should defend the law of nature instead of disturbing it. In the memory of Loki's previous life, the future Doctor Strange was scolded by Wong and Mordo when he tried time magic for the first time. But Ancient One just shrugged his shoulders, and said indifferently, the extraordinary times definitely require extreme means, and I'm not that kind of old-fashioned person. Think about it too, if Ancient One is an old-fashioned person, how could she steal energy from the dark dimension in order to prolong her life? It is even more impossible to find that the will of the gods in different sources of magic power can cancel each other out, so as to obtain pure magic power and break the boundaries of the magic system. Then what about these magic materials? Isn't it for nothing? If I knew you would do this, I might as well ask Dormammu for some other things as compensation. Loki said with some regret. It doesn't matter, if you don't use it now, it doesn't mean you won't use it in the future. Anyway, the 3 holy places and Kamar-Taj will be repaired every few years, and the magic materials from Dormammu will come in handy at that time, but I have to trouble the teacher to help you take it back. Loki took out a lot of good things from Dormammu, and without the king's treasure skill, it would be really difficult to bring them all back to Kamar-Taj. As soon as the 2 came out of the portal, their feet were on the floor of Kamar-Taj, and the mages who came back for treatment earlier swarmed up, asking about the final result of the battle. When they knew that Loki and Ancient One not only successfully drove away Dormammu, but also got compensation from each other, everyone cheered the names of Loki and Ancient One in unison. Among them, many mages also asked Loki with admiring eyes, "Loki mage, we want to ask, how can we become as powerful as you?" "What are you doing? Ha ha, oops. This question caught Loki by surprise, and he didn't prepare a speech in advance. Do you want to tell these mages that you can do it as long as you hang up? This is obviously impossible, but facing the expectant eyes of his little fans, Loki didn't want to cruelly refuse to answer. So he could only use his wits in a hurry, and forcibly preached, I am a very stubborn person, I never care what others say to me, let me do it. If you can be like me, then I think this matter, tie pants or hot. Okay, well said. Although they didn't know what Loki's words conveyed, all the mages felt strongly encouraged and applauded for Loki. Loki was very pleased with this, and couldn't help nodding his head. Well, a child can be taught, and a child can be taught. Then, from the king's treasure, he took out the magic book from Dormammu's pit. Hey, here is part of the magic book that Dormammu compensated you. I have already checked it for you, and it is all white magic. As long as you learn more and read more, and thoroughly understand the content of the book, sooner or later you will be able to become like me just as great. Hearing this, the surrounding mages rushed forward, and in the blink of an eye, they had already divided up the magic books that Loki took out. As for the remaining magic books that recorded black magic, Loki gave them to Ancient One. As for how to deal with it in the future, it is up to Ancient One to make its own judgment. And Loki returned to Jotunheim's palace happily with the thousands of artifacts that Dormammu compensated him. Congratulations to the host for completing the task and obtaining the treasure supplement package of the Skill King's treasure. Vimana, the golden sailboat, the brilliant boat, the throne of the king of the sky. The space machine in Vedic epic, also known as the spirit plane. The solar energy for driving is generated through the solar crystal fueled by Mercury, and high-speed flight can be performed regardless of physical laws. With powerful attack power, equipped with various treasure systems and even equipped with excellent weapons such as ancient nuclear warheads. Hey, it's the King's Treasure Supplement Pack again. The system will tell you, I have completed so many tasks in 1,000 years. Besides the Treasure Supplement Pack, what other rewards have you given me? No, not a single one. If this continues, I almost have no motivation to complete the task. However, in the face of the host Loki's questioning and threats, the system remained silent and did not respond. HMPH. It's boring. Unfortunately, in order to complete the task, I gave up the opportunity to build a snowman with Aisha these days. Saying that, Loki also ignored the system, and walked towards the bedroom behind the main hall. He was going to meet Aisha and Sif, who were outside these days, and made him think about it day and night. To be honest, Loki never thought that he and Sif would usher in the crystallization of their love. After all, one of them is the Frost Titan of Jotunheim, and the other is the Aesir Protoss of Asgard. Loki always thought that there should be reproductive isolation between them. And after he married Sif, for nearly 1,000 years, there has been no change in Sif's belly, which made Loki more sure of his guess. If it wasn't for the little guy Aisha who broke into his life suddenly 3 years ago, Loki couldn't imagine that he would have a child of his own with Sif one day. After asking Frigga, I found out that for races like them with a long life, it is not an easy task to give birth to a descendant originally. He and Sif had their own children in the early 1000s, which is already very lucky. And even luckier, just 9 months ago, Sif found out she was pregnant again. This also means that she and Loki will welcome their second child. According to the examination of El, the goddess of medicine, Sif's due date is roughly this week. In order not to miss this important day, Loki deliberately rejected Aisha's invitation to build a snowman, and went out a few days in advance to complete the task issued by the system. But what is disappointing is that the task reward issued by the system this time is still the treasure supplement package that Loki has already heard the cocoons in his ears. Loki swears that the next time the system releases a mission, no matter how attractive it describes the mission rewards, Loki will never look at it again. Absolute. With this firm determination, Loki pushed open the door to the apse of the palace and walked in. Then, Pia-yo, a snowball hit his face directly, and at the same time, the laughter of a little girl like a silver bell filled the empty apse. Aisha, you're being naughty again, aren't you? Hearing this laughter, Loki immediately guessed who the person who sneaked up him without talking about martial arts just now, and immediately said in a pretended angry tone. And his right hand was hidden behind him, secretly condensing a bigger snowball, ready to take revenge on little Aisha. But the clever little Aisha was not deterred by his stern tone, and saw through the plan of Loki, the god of trickery, at a glance. She lifted her little feet and stepped on the floor lightly. On the original ground, a layer of extremely smooth ice crystals formed in an instant. The ground suddenly became smooth, and Loki, who was about to throw the snowball in his hand, was caught off guard. He lost his balance all of a sudden, and the snowball in his hand fell to the ground without being able to launch it. However, little Aisha couldn't see the embarrassing scene of his old father falling on the ground. Loki, who lost his balance, turned into a cloud of black mist and disappeared from Aisha's sight before he made contact with the ground. Just when Aisha was still amazed by this, a huge snowball fell from the top of her head, instantly turning this delicate porcelain doll into a puffy little snowman. And behind this little snowman, there is also Loki's mean laughter, ha 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 ha. Little Aisha, you want to win me, the god of pranks, Madada darn, you're so bad far away. Ah, you stinky dad, it's fine if you don't build a snowman with Aisha, but you still bully Aisha. I'm going to tell my mother. Wait a minute. Hearing this, Loki quickly reached out to stop him, with a dignified expression. He, little Aisha, I think we, father and daughter, can discuss this matter again. I brought you a gift when I went out this time. As long as you promise me not to sue, I will give you the gift. How are you? Hearing the word, gift, Elsa put her right index finger on her chin and thought for a while. Well, I promise you, give me the gift. I didn't expect this thing to be useful, and it can be regarded as making the best use of it. Loki thought to himself while wiping the non-existent sweat on his forehead. Then he directly summoned the Vimana he just got from the system from the king's treasure, and used it as a gift for little Aisha. Okay, little Aisha, let's play outside with your new gift. I'm going to the back to see how your mother is doing now. Remember, when sitting on a Vimana, don't fly too high, and don't fly too fast. One more thing, don't touch the weapon on Vimana, do you understand? Even if you really want to move, you must go to the wilderness outside the royal capital. Don't worry, Dad, I promise to pay attention to safety. Aisha was talking, and she had already rushed out of the apse in Vimana. Seeing his daughter's mischievous appearance, Loki shook his head helplessly. As for Aisha's safety, he wasn't too worried. As the daughter of his Loki and Sif, Aisha inherited the ability of the two in blood. She was born with the magical power of calling wind and snow, and this magic power is still growing rapidly with her age. Aisha's physical ability is also very strong. Whether it is speed, strength or endurance, it is far superior to children of the same age as Asgard and Jotunheim. In addition, there is a very magical characteristic in Aisha's magic power. That is, the ice and snow creatures created by her using magic power can give birth to their own personality and consciousness just like real life. This, even today's Loki can't do it. In the bedroom, Sif was leaning halfway on the bed, reading with a book in one hand, and slowly stroking her pregnant belly with the other hand, with a happy smile on her face. Sif, I'm back. Hearing Loki's voice in the room, Sif glanced up towards the door. After making sure that he heard correctly and that Loki really appeared in front of his eyes, he immediately dropped the book in his hand and rushed into Loki's arms. Slow down. You are a pregnant woman who is about to give birth. Why are you still rushing like you are charging on the battlefield? Although Loki scolded his wife with his mouth, his hands were not slow. Loki hugged Sif gently, and then turned around gracefully with her, taking off the force of Sif's charge. I'm not by your side to take care of you these few days. How is your body? Loki hugged Sif in his arms, and asked gently in his ear. Don't worry, Elle comes over every day to help me check my body. My baby and I are both healthy. It's good that they are all healthy. I have already arranged the official duties for the next period of time, and the ministers in Jotunheim will take care of them for me. So from today onwards, I can spend time with you and Aisha. Well, I don't know if the baby in my womb will be a boy or a girl this time. Loki, have you figured out what the baby's name will be when it's born? It's not that you said that if you know the gender of the child in advance, there will be no surprises, so you won't let Elle tell you. I have racked my brains to name the child now, and finally came up with 2 good names. What's the name? Tell me quickly, Sif asked coquettishly while holding Loki's arm, shaking it constantly. Anna if it's a girl, Gray if it's a boy. What do you think? Sif was thinking, and at the same time put the palm of Loki on her stomach. Then I hope this child is a girl, and the name Anna is better. Well, just so it's decided, your name is Anna, but it must be a girl. At the moment, neither Loki nor Sif thought that these words would actually come true. In the early morning 3 days later, with the dew and sun, Sif gave birth to a girl smoothly. And the girl's name will be called Anna from now on. Since the birth of Anna, the lives of Loki and Sif have become more lively. Loki also completely put aside the affairs of the kingdom and became a full-time baby daddy. For this reason, Odin, the grandfather, criticized him a lot. As a result, when he turned around, Odin himself left the matter of Asgard every now and then, and came to Jotunheim with Frigg to look after his 2 granddaughters. And every time he came over, the old guy Odin would keep complaining in Loki's ear, saying that Thor was more than 1,000 years old, but he was still as impulsive and arrogant as when he was in his 20s. If Thor had been half as mature as Loki, he would have retired and enjoyed family life long ago. Speaking of this matter, in fact Loki also has a certain responsibility. After all, he clearly promised that Odin would help Thor become a qualified heir to the throne. But later Loki became the king of Jotunheim, and he was busy every day with rectifying this ruined country. He had less and less time to go back to Asgard, and naturally he paid less and less attention to Thor. There is a saying that, the country is easy to change, but the nature is hard to change. Without Loki's targeted, love spur, Thor quickly changed back to his previous rampant appearance. Even because Loki became the king first, and later welcomed by Fume, went to the pinnacle of life, and became a winner in life, which made Thor more and more anxious, wanting to catch up with the gap between the two as soon as possible, so gradually become more impulsive and irritable. Odin saw Thor's series of performances and was anxious in his heart. But no matter how much he reprimanded Thor, Thor's performance didn't get any better. Hearing that every time Odin came to see Elsa and Anna, he would whisper about Thor in his ears, Loki knew that he was here to collect debts. There is no way, what I promised back then, I definitely have to do what I said. And since he became a father, he is more able to understand Odin's feelings as a father. At the same time, he secretly alerted himself in his heart, but he must not let Aisha and Anna become like Thor in the future. An idea that had never been thought of before also began to breed in Loki's mind. How about it, father? You see, Elsa and Anna are still young, and it is time for their father to accompany and take care of them. You don't want your granddaughter to grow up to be like Thor, right? When they grow up a little bit and the 3 views are basically finalized, I will help you put Thor back in order. I've already thought about the plan, it's called Asgard Collapse Plan. I'm sure to leave a deep lesson for Thor by then, what do you think? Odin nodded, with a successful smile on his face. Then it's a deal, you boy can't break your promise this time. Okay, since everything is settled, you should get out quickly, don't be in the excuse me and Frigga to play with little Anna. Loki's mind was suddenly full of black lines, you are always killing a donkey. But Loki can't do anything about it, maybe this is the 2nd generation in Legendary, so he can only leave obediently, leaving the space alone with Anna to Odin and Frigga. In the back garden, Elsa is sliding on a slide made entirely of ice crystals, while Sif is sitting on the sidelines and looking at her with a smile on her face. Don't look at how gentle Sif's smile is now. When she knew that Loki had given Vamana to Aisha as a gift, she scolded them severely. Then, the gift that Aisha had just received was confiscated by Sif. Loki came to sit next to Sif, and looked at Aisha who was having fun with her. Looking at the innocent smile on Aisha's face, after a while, Loki finally made up his mind and said to Sif, during the conversation with the father just now, I suddenly had an idea in my heart. What idea? Sif turned to look at him curiously and asked. You said, what if we take Aisha and Anna and move to Midgard together to live for a while? To be honest, even though Loki was an Earthling in his previous life, he never thought of returning to live on Earth after his rebirth. On the one hand, it was because the civilization and technology on the Earth were still too backward at that time, and the living conditions were very difficult. On the other hand, it is because Loki originally is too powerful, and a little carelessness may cause a disaster that the common people cannot bear. Back in Midgard, because of his magic power, the countries around the Himalayas suddenly entered the Little Ice Age. Therefore, since Loki was reborn, except for the short 6 months of studying and living in Kamartaj, the rest of the time was basically spent in Asgard and Jotunheim. But after Aisha and Anna were born, especially after talking about Thor with Odin just now, Loki suddenly had the idea of moving to Midgard. Now Midgard is in a prosperous era of rapid development of social economy, culture and technology after World War II. In some developed countries, people's way of life is actually almost the same as the era before Loki traveled. Household appliances such as televisions, refrigerators, air conditioners, and washing machines have all been integrated into people's daily lives. Only in terms of entertainment methods, limited by the current level of technology, there is still a certain gap with the situation in Loki's memory. But in any case, modern life on Earth is sure to make life comfortable in Jotunheim. Even though Jotunheim has developed for so many years under the leadership of Loki, the original natural conditions of this land determine that it cannot become a paradise in the traditional sense. That is to say, these races born in Jotunheim have extraordinary abilities and can endure such difficult environmental conditions. But from their support for the king Loki, it can be seen that being able to bear it does not mean not wanting a better life. Loki definitely also wants his daughter to have a more comfortable life. But the reason why he chose to move to Midgard instead of moving back to Asgard was mainly because of the education of his 2 children. The illusion of Meng's mother moving 3 times shows that the environment is an important part of a child's growth and life. A good environment can promote the healthy growth of children, while a bad environment may make children learn to be bad. Even though Odin is already very strict with Thor, but as the eldest prince of Asgard, when Thor saw other people since he was young, there was no one who didn't treat him with respect, for fear that what he said would make Thor unhappy. In such an environment, if it weren't for Loki's mature soul from time travel. Moreover, he has also received the edification and education of the 24-character mantra of prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, dedication, integrity, and friendliness. I am afraid that he will become like Thor. Impulsive and selfish. Elsa and Anna are Odin's granddaughters, Asgard's little princesses, plus Odin and Frigg's doting on their intergenerational relatives. Loki couldn't even imagine what kind of people they would grow into in the future if they were sent back to Asgard to live. There is a high probability that it will become an arrogant existence like the Tianlong people. So Loki still hopes that Elsa and Anna can learn and grow up in Midgard like the 2 little girls in common. Instead of being the princesses of Jotunheim and Asgard, living in the delicate, protective shield created by the people around them. But what Loki didn't expect was that Sif agreed without any hesitation to his whimsical idea. Don't you need to think about it again? After all, it's a major issue related to our family's future life. Loki asked. Sif shook his head, turned his gaze from Aisha to Loki, looked into his eyes and said seriously, as long as you make the decision, I will always stand behind you and firmly support you. Sif, Loki was so moved by this sentence that he didn't know what to say. The love went deep, and finally thousands of words converged into Sif's name and the affectionate embrace between the 2. If it weren't for the fact that little Aisha was still playing next to him, Loki would have wanted to have a verbal fight with Sif. But little Aisha on the side doesn't have the consciousness of being a small light bulb at all. Seeing my parents hugging each other, they shouted, Elsa wants it too. Aisha wants it too. While using magic to create a U-shaped ice crystal slide. Sliding from one end of the slide to the other, Elsa was thrown into the air and landed right between the arms of Loki and Nozomi. Looking at Aisha in his arms, Loki could only let go of Sif's hand, squeezed Aisha's 2 round faces and gritted his teeth. You little troublemaker, you want to piss me off, Daddy, and then inherit my name as the god of mischief. HMPH. Dad, you are bullying me again. Look at my strength, Schwaden Helix Wan. PAG. The snowball in Aisha's hand once again hit Loki's face with precision. And then, the warm and happy scene of the family suddenly turned into Loki and Aisha using magic to fight in the garden. Sif looked at the childish father and daughter, and shook his head helplessly. 1 big child, 2 small children, who would have thought that I am the only adult in this family? Jotunheim's government affairs are now basically handed over by Loki to his ministers. After moving to Midgard, you only need to go back to through the portal every day and spend a little time for approval. The things you need to bring when you move are directly put into the treasure of the king, there is no need to tidy up at all. Now for Loki, the final problem is that the family doesn't have a place to stay in Midgard yet. Fortunately, Loki still has some connections in Midgard. Loki found Ancient One directly, and after explaining the situation, the other party directly lent Loki the house at number 177A Bleecker Street, Manhattan, New York. That's right, it is New York Holy Place, one of the 3 holy places. Loki voted for Kamar Taj's house, and Kamar Taj voted for Loki and Sif, 2 powerful holy place guards, which is a win-win situation. Sif, how was your day? No, 177A, Bleecker Street. Loki, who came back from off work in Jotunheim, walked out of the portal, and while using magic to change his clothes into the clothes of the earth, he asked Sif, who was busy in the kitchen, how she was doing today. It has been a month since the 2 moved to New York. After this period of adaptation, they got used to Sif, who was fighting on the battlefield, and gradually got used to the peaceful rhythm of life on Earth. Loki and Aisha, the father and daughter, adapted quickly. Loki is because he lived a similar life before time travel, while Aisha is completely because of the child's heartlessness. As for Anna, the little guy is still drinking in his mother's arms, so he doesn't remember anything yet. It doesn't matter where she lives. In the kitchen, Sif is proficiently handling various ingredients from the earth. After thousands of years of training, Sif finally turned from the dark to the bright, and switched from the dark cooking world to the light cooking world. Even unfamiliar earth ingredients can be easily cooked after simple learning. Hearing Loki asking about her situation today, Sif continued to move neatly while excitedly sharing today's experience with Loki. When I was taking Elsa and Anna for a walk in the park today, I met a lady named Maria. Maria is a mother like me, and her child is also just born. But Maria's child is a boy, and our Anna is a girl. It just so happened that she took the child out for a walk today, and we chatted in the park. Sif gushed to Loki about her experience today, while Loki stood quietly aside as her loyal listener. By the way, Loki. Before we parted, Maria invited our family to visit their house on Sunday, and I promised her. You have to come back from Jotunheim early, don't forget. I remember, I will come back early that day. Aisha. Wow, wow, wow. Just when Loki was halfway through speaking, he heard Anna's crying from upstairs. I guess he just woke up, and he didn't see Yo around. Keep busy, I'll go up and see Anna. But as soon as Loki came upstairs, little Anna's crying stopped. Going to the front of Anna's room and opening the door, Loki saw a red cloak teasing Anna with its collar, making little Anna giggle. The reason why Loki and Sif dared to put Anna upstairs to sleep alone was not because of their feelings. It's because a free nanny delivered to their door on the first day they moved in. This free babysitter is exactly the levitation cloak stored in the New York Holy Place, which is the red cloak that is currently coaxing Anna. I don't know the reason, but after the death of the previous owner, the levitating cloak had been quietly hanging in the cabinet of the Holy Place in New York. After meeting Anna for the first time, he fell in love with her at first sight. Since then, the levitating cloak has become Anna's exclusive nanny, pram, and crib, accompanying her every day. And Loki and Sif, after confirming that the levitation cloak is indeed taking care of Anna meticulously, they feel relieved to hand over little Anna to take care of it. After all, for adults, when a child is a few months old, he is the cutest only when he is asleep, and he is a lively Trask at other times. Although Anna had stopped crying, Loki took her out of the cloak and examined her. After making sure that Anna was neither hungry nor dirty, he carried her downstairs. Little Anna was taken away by Loki, and the levitating cloak naturally followed them downstairs. Sif, where is little Elsa going crazy again? I didn't see her upstairs. When he came to the dining room, Loki put little Anna back in the levitating cloak. The levitating cloak also took Anna carefully, and folded himself directly into a cradle. Wei Chun is beside the dining table. Little Elsa, after she and I came back from the park, she went to Kamar Taj to play with Ancient One Mage again. Loki nodded. Little girl, this is getting more and more difficult to manage. It's time for dinner, I'll go to Ancient One and bring her back. After speaking, Loki flew directly to Thor and disappeared into the restaurant. Little Elsa wears a necklace that Loki gave her on her second birthday. And on this necklace, Loki left Thor's magic mark. However, Loki did not use the flying Thor to appear directly beside Aisha, but teleported to the holy place of the Supreme Mage. After all, children also need privacy. If it is not a critical moment, Loki usually will not directly use the flying Thor mark on Aisha's necklace. As soon as Loki appeared in the holy place, he saw that Elsa was learning the magic with Gu, with an excited face, and from the conspicuous magic shield in her hand, it can be known that Elsa has successfully used Jagora the Ring of Dola's magic. Seeing this scene, Loki couldn't help showing his vigilance towards Ancient One in his eyes. He knew very well that since the last time he brought his whole family to Kamartaj and introduced them to Ancient One has been eyeing little Aisha's innate magic ability. I have always wanted to train little Aisha to be the heir to the next Supreme Mage. For this reason, Ancient One also found him to discuss this matter together, but Loki definitely rejected Ancient One's request without any hesitation. In Loki's vision, his daughter is going to become the Snow Queen of Jotunheim. How could you let Ancient One be abducted to Kamartaj to become the Supreme Mage? But the enemy's methods are too treacherous. Because among the 3 holy places, there are 3 magic doors connected with Kamartaj and the other 2 holy places. So for little Aisha, who took the initiative to come to Kamartaj to play this matter, Loki is basically hard to guard against. In addition, Ancient One will show up from time to time and perform some tricks in front of little Elsa. As a result, Ji simply captured little Elsa's heart. But Loki is very confident. He is confident that he can make little Elsa change her mind again. He can also use the magic that Ancient One can use, and Ancient One can't get out all kinds of treasures he has collected in the king's treasure. Thinking of this, Loki snorted disdainfully at Ancient One, then immediately put on a smile on his face, and shouted in a gentle tone, "Little Aisha, your mother is calling you home for dinner, let's go, say goodbye to your Ancient One grandma." At the same time that Loki finished speaking, a murderous intent flashed across the holy place. Loki looked at Ancient One, with a, "What can you do to me?" expression on his face, which made Ancient One, who hadn't lost his temper for hundreds of years, couldn't help bursting out a character on his bald head. It's just that in front of little Aisha, it's not easy for Ji Yuyi to attack Lu Ji directly. Fortunately, Sif usually educates little Aisha very well. Little Aisha waved to Ancient One and said, "I'll see you tomorrow, Ancient One Mage." Ancient One also waved goodbye to little Elsa with a gentle smile. Knowing that little Elsa turned around, he immediately changed his face, stared fiercely at Loki, and mouthed silently, "Let's go look." In fact, Loki is still a little vain about the fact that Ancient One took a fancy to his daughter's ability. After all, little Aisha's ability is recognized by others. Isn't that also a disguised compliment to his father? Back to New York with little Elsa, Sif's dinner happened to be ready, and the family sat around the dining table, enjoying the food of the earth happily. Definitely Anna also had her exclusive dinner. Sif prepared a bottle of milk for her, and the levitating cloak was holding the bottle to feed her. At this time, Loki began to discuss with Sif whether it is time to recruit a kindergarten for Aisha. After all, it's not a problem to make her play so crazy every day. If she can go to kindergarten, not only can she meet new friends, but it can also reduce the chances of Ancient One getting in touch with her, which can be said to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. But Sif is a little worried about whether Aisha can adapt to life in kindergarten. After all, no matter how similar Aisha looks to the common little girl in Midgard, she is still not a mortal. It would definitely be a very bad thing if Aisha used her strength and ability when conflicting with other children in the kindergarten. I think we should trust little Aisha, believe that she is a kind girl, and believe that she will not abuse her ability in such a trivial matter. Loki said this to Sif, and then turned his head to look at Sif. "Sif, now Mom and Dad want to make an agreement with you. From now on, besides in this house, and in Kamartaj, in other places or other in front of people, you can't even use your magic power. Can you do it? If you can abide by this agreement, I will ask my mother to return the confiscated Vimana to you. But you can't use it in front of other people either." Little Aisha must have seen the word, Vimana, and her eyes lit up immediately. She stood up from the chair and asked excitedly, "Dad, is what you said true? Then let's pull the hook, and Aisha promises to abide by the agreement between us." Well, Daddy believes in you. Loki smiled and stroked Elsa's little head, then winked at Sif. HMPH. Sif snorted coldly, and rolled his eyes at him. But she is like Loki said, she chooses to believe that her daughter can keep the promise between them. I put the things in the curry of the palace, you two go back and get them after dinner. Yeah, Loki held out his big hand and gave Elsa's small hand a high five. Okay, you two hurry up and sit down for me to eat. When I visit Maria's house on the weekend, I will ask her about the kindergarten. Seeing the smug look of the father and daughter, Sif's aura exploded, and he immediately suppressed the two of them. By the way, I've heard so many things about Mrs. Maria from you today, but I still don't know what her husband's name is. It would be rude to come to someone's house without even knowing their name on weekends. Huh, didn't I mention it to you just now? Maybe I ignored it subconsciously. When I chatted with Maria today, she told me that her husband's name is Howard, the founder of a technology company, and her son's name is what Mr. Howard said was, it's called gutting. But I can't remember the last names of their family. Sif frowned, trying to recall the conversation with Maria in the park today. The rumor of being pregnant and stupid for 3 years seems to have come true for her. Since the birth of Aisha and Anna, Sif often has forgetfulness. But before Sif recalled the information she wanted, Loki on the other side asked directly, Mrs. Maria's family, shouldn't the surname be Stark? The technology company her husband founded is called Stark Industries. Hearing this, Sif squeezed a fist with his right hand and hit the palm of his left hand with a bright expression on his face. That's right, it's Stark. Is the company founded by Mr. Howard so famous? Even you know its name. Loki nodded, but there was surprise in his eyes. It is indeed quite famous, and not only is this company famous, but the person who founded this company is also famous. The person who inherits this company will be even more famous. That's it. So what kind of gift should we bring when we come to visit on weekends? Loki, how about I give Durandal as a meeting gift? Although this sword is not very powerful, it is well crafted. Still beautiful. Hearing Loki say that the Stark family is quite famous, Sif starts making plans for a visit that day. Although others don't know their identities, but as the royal family of Jotunheim, they can't lose their manners when they are guests. But Sif's brain circuit, what should Loki say about her? As expected of the strongest female warrior in Asgard, the first thing I thought of as a greeting gift was to give a sword. And although Durandal's sword is indeed a piece of trash for powerhouses like Sif and Loki, this sword is also qualified to enter the king's treasure, and has obtained the holy artifact in the mythical legendary treasures of the name. Is it really good to just give it away so simply? You know, even the shield that Howard used vibranium to forge for the captain of the United States was destroyed in the face of the absolute power of Thanos. However, Durandal, as the eternal sword, has the characteristics of being sharp and indestructible. I don't know how Howard, a scientist, will face this fact that cannot be explained by science after he discovers Durandal's indestructible properties. Ah, if you think it's okay, Qian Li's, then take it as a meeting gift. Anyway, I have already given it to you, no matter how you decide, I have no problem. After confirming that Loki has no objection, Sif made a decision directly. Well, the matter is decided like this. It just so happened that Durandal was placed in the curry where Vamana was placed. Later, when you and Aisha go back to get Vamana, help me bring Durandar back with me by the way. I'll go to the store tomorrow to see if I can buy some beautiful boxes and wrapping paper. I'm sure Maria and the others will like this gift I carefully prepared. Don't you think so, Loki? Seeing Sif looking at him, Loki instantly turned into a boy with a smirk, nodded vigorously and said, "Ah, that's right. You're right." The weekend came quickly, and on Saturday, Maria called one day in advance with great enthusiasm and asked if Sif needed to send a car to pick them up. But the result was naturally rejected by Sif. No, 177A Bleecker Street is protected by Kamar Taj's magic, and ordinary people can't find its location. Originally, Loki wanted to open a portal and go there directly, but after thinking about it carefully, since he decided to live on the Earth for a period of time in the future, he should try to minimize the use of his special ability. This can also be regarded as setting an example for little Aisha. After Loki and Sif settled in New York, they neither bought a car nor took a local driver's license test. So on Sunday afternoon, they finally chose to take a taxi to the villa where Maria's family lived. Maria's villa and Loki's holy place in New York, where they live now, are both in Manhattan, not very far away, and a taxi quickly took them to their destination. When they got off the car, the enthusiastic Mrs. Maria was already waiting for them in front of the villa. Seeing Sif, Mrs. Maria immediately stepped forward and gave her a warm hug, and she even greeted little Aisha and little Anna politely. After Loki settled the bill with the taxi driver, Maria came to Loki with a smile and said, "You are Sif's husband, Mr. Loki. You are as handsome as Sif described." Loki responded in a very gentlemanly way, "Mrs. Maria, you are honored. Thank you for inviting our family to be guests today. It is our honor to be invited by an elegant and beautiful lady like you." Hearing Loki's praise, Maria couldn't help covering her mouth and showing a joyful smile. "No, I'm also very happy to see your family." At this time, Sif, who was carrying a gift, also came over, and asked Maria with some doubts, "Why didn't Maria see your husband and little Tony?" Sif wants to give out the meeting gift he carefully prepared when Maria's family is neat and tidy. She thought it would be more solemn, so she asked Maria. Maria replied to Sif with an apologetic face, "I'm sorry, Howard still has some work to do, and he may not be able to come back later. Little Tony just finished drinking milk and fell asleep in the crib. Speaking of Tony, I don't know what's wrong with this kid these days. He keeps crying in the middle of the night, but it exhausts me and Howard." When it comes to parenting, the two mothers, Sif and Maria, always have a lot to talk about. The two walked into the villa while chatting. Loki couldn't get in the way, so he could only hold Aisha's little hand and follow behind them. Following Maria to the living room, I saw the carefully prepared fruit platter and snacks on the coffee table. "Everyone, come and sit down here. It's not time for dinner yet. Let's have some afternoon tea and snacks first. It's not long since I moved here. If there is any place where the hospitality is not good, you must be sure. Bring it up with me." Everyone came to sit on the sofa, and Loki felt little Elsa tugging at his arm. When he looked down, he saw little Aisha blinking her eyes and looking at him expectantly. Loki knew what little Aisha was thinking at a glance, nodded to her and said, "Go eat if you want to eat, remember to pay attention to your manners, don't be as presumptuous as you are at home. Also, thanks to Ms. Maria hospitality." After dismissing Elsa as a snack, Loki began to feel a little bored. Aisha was so absorbed in wrestling with the food on the coffee table that she didn't care about him at all. Sif and Maria had a great conversation, and Loki couldn't get in on the topic they were talking about. Just when he thought that the next time would be difficult for him, the sound of the door being opened and the footsteps of two people came from outside the living room. Walking into the living room were two men in neat suits, and Loki had guessed their identities the first time he saw them. The one walking in front, with a mustache and curly hair, should be Maria's husband, the famous Howard Stark. And the person following Howard Stark was most likely his driver and butler, Edwin Jarvis. "Oh, hello. I'm sorry I'm a little late, but you are the friends that Maria invited to the house. I'm Howard Stark." Howard came up to Loki and held out his hand. Loki also stood up and took his hand and introduced himself, Loki Odinson. "My wife and I are both Norwegians, and we just moved to New York to work in Haddon last month." This is definitely a lie. He and Sif had compiled this information at home before coming here as a guest. It turned out to be a friend from Norway. "I went there with the army during World War II. The most profound impact was the winter there, which was really bitterly cold. I'm used to it, and I'm naturally more resistant to cold. My friends often tease me, saying that I am more freezing than the cold wind in winter." It's true what Loki said, because he does, frozen, a lot. It's just that he's talking about physical effects, whereas Loki, to Howard, is describing his own personality. "Really, although it's the first time we met, I think you're quite funny. I don't know what you do. I'm an inventor and a businessman. Now that we're both living in New York, maybe we will have a chance to cooperate in the future." For this question, Loki has long been prepared. "I am a historian engaged in Norse mythology research, and I am also an archaeologist." With that said, Loki waved to Sif, motioning her to take out the prepared gift. "This is the meeting gift we brought here today. CHFI is a replica of the holy sword Durandar based on the description in ancient books. I hope you like it. But when Sif handed the gift to Howard, the expression on Howard's face became awkward. Jarvis, who has been following behind him without any sense of presence, immediately stood up and received a gift from Nozomi. Maria also stood up from the sofa, and explained, I'm sorry, Howard has a quirk, he doesn't like to take things from other people's hands. So the things that others hand over are usually me and the Jarvis gang. He took it. Sorry, Howard said apologetically. I really like your gift, and I will hang it in the most conspicuous place in my office later. In any case, the first meeting between the two families was indeed a bit embarrassing. However, thanks to the fact that Maria and Sif hit it off immediately, and Howard is probably also very interested in Norse mythology because of Tesseract, and they quickly became acquainted after a few glasses of wine at dinner. After that, the relationship between the two became better and better, and Howard became Loki Midgard's second friend after Ancient One. The gatherings at Stark's house continued every weekend. After Maria's introduction, Sif found a good kindergarten in Manhattan, and little Aisha also started her kindergarten career. In the first few days when Aisha first entered the kindergarten, Loki, who was not at ease, used magic to hide every day, and followed behind to observe Aisha's performance. In order for his daughter to grow up physically and mentally, the old father Loki is really worried. It wasn't until a week later that Loki was completely relieved when he confirmed that Aisha could blend in well with her peers and that she didn't violate the agreement not to use magic power. But Loki didn't know until 3 years later, when Aisha was 6 years old, that his daughter had become the big sister of all the children in that kindergarten. To put it bluntly, Aisha, who inherited Frost Titan and Aesir God bloodline, even if she does not use magic power, her physical fitness is not comparable to that of children on Earth. Under such ability crushing, even if Aisha has never touched other children, those children who covet her big sister's head position can't break her defense. As a result, Aisha has been the overlord of the kindergarten for 3 years from the time she entered school to the time she left. This makes Loki can't help but think, my daughter is worthy of the emperor. Sure enough, Elsa should inherit her throne and become the Ice Queen, and the Ancient One must not be abducted to Kamar Taj. When Elsa grew up, little Anna also became a little girl who could run, jump, and speak well. It's just that unlike Elsa in kindergarten who has a group of younger brothers, little Anna has only one younger brother, and that is Tony Stark. No way, although little Anna is a girl, she also inherited the powerful blood from Loki and Sif, and her physical ability is stronger than that of her elder sister Aisha at the same age. Just Tony, a nerd with physics books and math books all day long, how could he be little Anna's opponent? Little Anna directly told Tony a truth with her little powder fist, it's physics, it's useless to look at it, you have to practice it. What's worse, even if Tony went to complain to Maria, Maria would still be partial to little Anna when it comes to such petty fights between children. This made Tony wonder whether he was picked up by his parents from the trash can, but he felt that this kind of thing did not conform to the law of biological reproduction, and he was troubled for a long time. Fortunately, the kind little Anna would come to him every day and, physically, light up his head, so no matter how distressed he was, Tony kept sleeping like a baby. To this day, Tony's miserable childhood seems to be finally turning around. The Starks are moving back to Malibu, California. 3 years is enough for Stark Industries to complete the layout and development in New York. Now that the company's situation has stabilized, the President Howard will naturally return to headquarters and continue his previous work. After knowing that he was going to move soon, Tony could be said to be the happiest person in the whole family. He was so excited until midnight that night, he still didn't fall asleep. As a result, when he woke up the next day with a pair of dark circles under his eyes, he was directly laughed at by little Anna for a whole day. But when the day of leaving New York came, Tony felt an indescribable sour feeling in his heart. He didn't know what happened to him, because there was no mention of this situation in the various engineering and science books he had read. So Tony knew for the first time that breaking up didn't seem to be a happy thing. Okay, Tony, what are you still doing here? Hurry up and say goodbye to Elsa and Anna. Maria patted Tony without saying a word. Seeing that Tony still didn't move, she knelt down and touched Tony's head again. I know, I'm going to be separated from my little friend, you feel uncomfortable now, don't you? Hearing his mother's question, Tony pouted stubbornly, as if he didn't want to admit his cowardice. But in the end, the tears in the eyes still fell down without disappointment, and Tony nodded slightly. It's okay, don't cry. If Anna sees you like this, she will make fun of you again. Hearing this, Tony quickly suppressed his sobs and wiped away his tears that night. After finishing all this, he secretly glanced at Anna. Realizing that Anna didn't see his embarrassment just now, she spit out the breath that was trapped in her chest. Tony, there is an old saying in the East called, "There is no feast that never ends, every parting in life is for a better encounter next time." Besides, we just moved back to Malibu to live, and it's not that we can't come to New York in the future. When you want to play with Anna, wouldn't it be good if we come back on the weekend? After some careful guidance and comfort from Maria, Tony finally calmed down. He came in front of Aisha and Anna. In order not to let the other party see the sadness in his heart, he deliberately said with a sullen face, "If you miss me, remember to come and play with me, or you call me, I will let Mom bring me back to play with you." Compared to Tony's coy look, Elsa and Anna looked okay. After all, they often returned to Jotunheim through the portal opened by Loki, and the distance from New York to California was nothing to them. Although a little younger than Tony, Anna, who is Tony's big sister, stepped forward and patted her little brother on the shoulder and said, "Okay, I'll come back and play with you when I'm bored, so hurry up and get in the car, don't make Aunt wait. Also, this is a gift from my sister and I. Don't you often like to do handwork by knocking? I call that invention," Tony retorted. "Don't interrupt me." But she was forcibly suppressed by Anna's boss immediately. "I see that you often use a hammer, so I asked Dad to find someone to make one for us. Tell you, this hammer is made by imitating my uncle's meow meow hammer. You must keep it safe. If I go to play with you next time and find that you have lost it." Gudong, Tony shrank his neck, swallowed a mouthful of saliva to moisten his dry throat, and asked nervously, "What if I lose it?" Click, click. Anna clenched her fists, and the smile on her face gradually changed. "Then Teacher Anna, I will give you a good physics class." Da, 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 da. Hearing that Tony was holding the hammer bigger than his head on the spot, he ran to his suitcase, opened it, put it in, zipped it up, and finally locked the suitcase. No way, sometimes getting used to nature is such a terrible thing. Watching the Stark family's car go away and finally disappear at the corner of the street, Loki and Sif got into the car with the two little ones. That's right, during those 3 years, Loki and Sif, like most people in this country, got their driver's licenses and bought a family car. After 3 years of ordinary life in Midgard, although Aisha and Anna have more or less deviated from Loki's expected appearance, overall he and Sif are very satisfied with the growth of their two daughters. But as Anna grows from a baby to the little girl she is now, Loki and Sif gradually discover the difference between her and her older sister Elsa. Elder sister Aisha not only inherited the strong physical fitness of the Aesir Protoss, but also inherited the innate ability of ice and snow from the Frost Titan. It's just that Aisha is better at learning magic and witchcraft than fighting skills, which can be said to be completely dependent on Loki. As for the younger sister Anna, so far, she has not shown any ability of Frost Titan. Maybe it's because 50% of her Frost Titan bloodline has been added to her physical fitness. Compared with Aisha at the same age, Anna's physical fitness is obviously a level higher. And for all kinds of fighting martial arts and 18 kinds of weapons, Anna can master them very quickly, but she is not very good at learning magic. From this point of view, Anna still inherited more abilities from her mother Sif. But there is one exception. Although Anna can't learn other magics, she can learn space magic, such as the Arcane Gate and Flying Thor. Anna just watched Loki use it once. The differences in the abilities of the two sisters made Loki and Sif realize that in addition to allowing them to receive education in natural sciences as common people, it is also time to start guiding them to develop their abilities and potentials. Compared to Sif, Loki thinks more. As a coward, he definitely will not force his daughter to be better than Blue. But in his opinion, it is always a good thing to make Aisha and Anna stronger. Otherwise, what if you are bullied in the future? Loki can't always be able to rush to every family member to help them in the first time. At this time, they need to have enough strength to defeat the enemy, or wait for Loki to arrive. So after slowly getting to know the different abilities and potentials of Elsa and Anna, Loki has been thinking about how to help them gain stronger strength. After several years of thinking, Loki has made their own plans for Elsa and Anna to become stronger, and it is the kind of plan that does not need to become bald. Elsa's ability is first of all that she was born with the magical power of calling wind and snow, and this magical power is still growing at an alarming rate every year. Secondly, it is her ability to learn magic and witchcraft. For Elsa's ability to learn magic, Loki has only seen two equivalents in the past 1,000 years. One is definitely Loki himself, and the other is the Supreme Mage Ancient One who has been trying to abduct Aisha. However, the most precious abilities in Aisha are not these two, but the innate vitality in her magic power. Although Aisha is still unable to control this vitality freely for the time being, its existence makes the life created by Aisha using ice and snow possible to become magical creatures with independent consciousness and personality. So in Loki's vision, the most suitable path for Aisha is to become a summoning mage. The reason why he has been against Aisha becoming the heir of Supreme Mage is because he hopes that the throne of Jotunheim can be handed over to Aisha in the future. On the other hand, it is because Aisha is actually not good at melee combat, but Kamar Taj's mages are all melee mages. Even with Aisha's ability to quickly learn the magic of Kamar Taj, how much combat power can she display after mastering it? The answer to this question is not optimistic in Loki's mind. But summoning mage is different. Aisha's huge ice and snow magic power allows her to constantly create powerful magical creatures. And the vitality contained in her magic power can give these magical creatures the consciousness of independent thinking and fighting, and provide protection for Aisha, the creator. As long as Aisha can master her ability proficiently, summoning mage is the development route that can best develop her strengths and avoid her weaknesses. In addition, in order to allow Elsa's ability to develop more comprehensively, Loki completely relied on his own understanding of magic theory to create the magic of ice modeling in an anime in his memory in this world. Although the ice modeling magic does not have the bugs of Moko Botmo, it is a magic that really tests the user's imagination. As long as the brain is big enough, the upper limit of ice modeling magic is still very high. And the magical creatures created by using the ice modeling magic can also directly infuse them with vitality, so that the ice modeling magic can also be regarded as a pre-summoning skill before summoning. In any case, magic, as a very universal ability, has no obvious shortcomings in terms of attack, defense, retreat, or assistance. So when Loki made a plan to become stronger for Aisha, he actually completed it without much thought. What worries Loki more is the youngest daughter Anna, although Anna's ability in space magic can at least ensure that she can escape in time when she encounters danger. However, Loki once deeply understood that some problems cannot be solved by running away. When faced with some choices, even if you can run away, you have to face this problem head-on. And if one day, Anna really needs to make a choice, relying solely on physical fitness and fighting ability may not be able to help her solve the predicament in front of her. To solve this problem, the old father Loki needs to take action. Since Anna has a special ability in space-type magic, Loki will start from this aspect and create a magic suitable for her for Anna. So Loki began to rummage through the memories of his previous life, trying to see if he could find something that could be used as a reference. In the end, after searching every corner of his memory, he finally found one that met the requirements, which could not only solve Anna's single-handed flaw, but also bring out her ability to excel in melee combat. Dress-up magic is a magic that can summon weapons, armor and other equipment stored in another space, and adjust and replace the equipment at any time according to the needs of the situation. Dress-up magic is essentially a type of space magic, a bit similar to Spiritism or the degraded version of King's Treasure. At the same time, if you want this magic to be powerful enough, you need to place high requirements on the weapons and armor stored in the space. In short, it requires the user to have the money ability. After all, where do you go to buy advanced equipment if you don't have money? But regarding this point, for Loki who owns the Lord's treasure, it is the easiest condition to satisfy. Anyway, the existence of King's Treasure is more of a convenience for him, and Loki has always used it as a portable space. As for the treasures inside, except for a few that are particularly practical or have special abilities, most of them are better for Loki than looking for water droplets made by dwarf craftsmen. Since there is already a ready-made storage space, there are also ready-made weapons and armors and other treasures. Next, as long as one problem is solved, the dress-up magic is truly completed. How can Anna summon the seal she needs from Loki's king's treasure at will? Loki's solution is to fly Thor. Definitely, it's not that anything that Loki has developed before also gives Thor magic. Because whether it is Flying Thor second stage, or Flying Thor guided mine, they cannot meet the requirements of summoning. But Loki suddenly thought, since Flying Thor can make people jump through space through the magic imprint, can this magic also be reversed, allowing objects marked with magic imprint to jump through space, so as to achieve the effect of summoning? Theoretically, it is indeed feasible, but these items marked with the mark of magic power originally do not have magic power. Where does the magic power come from to summon it to the user? Can't you have to pre-store a piece of magic power on each treasure before each summoning? According to the innumerable number of treasures in the king's treasure, it is necessary to leave a mark of magic power. To complete enchanting again, who can have this magic power and energy? In this regard, Loki, who is rich and powerful, said that magic power is needed, right? Labor and capital have plenty. The core of the Millennium building blocks is the power gem, one of the 6 infinite gems. When it comes to magic, Loki has never been short. It is also very simple to enchant the treasure and leave a magic imprint. Just use the 1,000-year-old building block as the power supply, and the skylock as the wire, and connect all the treasures in the king's treasure in series. Loki's main theme is, Anna is free to fly, and Dad will always be with you. With these 2 exclusive strengthening plans customized for Elsa and Anna, Loki is confident that when the 2 sisters are adults, they can definitely press Thor on the ground. Cut. In Asgard far away, a hammer god rubbed his nose and said, "It's strange, I've been in good health since I was a child, why did I sneeze today? Did someone scold me behind my back? Loki, is it really okay for us to just leave Elsa and Anna here and return to Jotunheim by ourselves?" Looking at the strange yet familiar Jotunheim palace on the other side of the portal, where he hasn't been back for a long time, Sif asked with some concern. Loki put his hands on her shoulders, and while pushing her into the portal, he said, "Don't worry, they are both grown girls and can take care of themselves. And now they won't come back for a while, and we can't contact them. Even if they come back, they will know where we are after seeing the message I left them on the table. If you want to see us, just use space magic to return to Jotunheim, there will be no problem." Sif is always overly worried about the safety and health of the 2 daughters, completely ignoring that Elsa and Anna are not the babies they were in. Elsa is 18 years old this year, and even Anna is 15 years old this year. Moreover, after more than 10 years of teaching and training by Loki, the strength of the 2 of them has long been different from what it used to be. The younger sister Anna has the strength of planet level and can easily destroy a city, while the elder sister Aisha is even better, having reached level sub-godfather, enough to freeze the entire Midgard with all her strength. Loki really can't think of any power on the current Earth that can harm the 2 sisters, and it's even worth Sif's worry. In his view, circle selection is completely groundless worry. The only thing that makes people more worried may be Aisha, who grows up and becomes more rebellious. Elsa has liked the feeling of flying freely in the sky while driving Vimana since she was a child. Perhaps it was Vimana who inspired her. After finishing high school, Aisha did not follow the route Loki and Sif set for her to continue her university studies. Instead, she secretly enrolled in the Air Force Academy and became an Air Force flight cadet. What makes Loki even more angry is that Howard Stark's, helping the evil, is indispensable. Because in the United States in this era, it is actually not difficult to become a flight member, but if you want to become a female flight member, it is a very difficult thing. If Howard hadn't used his relationship to help Aisha, even if she passed the Air Force school exam, she would not be able to get a place for admission. Since Aisha entered the Air Force Academy, Loki and Sif have not seen her for more than half a year. They couldn't get in touch with Aisha, and Aisha didn't take the initiative to contact them. The only news they had about Aisha was from Howard. "I only know that Aisha's grades in the Air Force Academy are excellent, and she also knows 2 friends who are also very excellent, Carol Danvers and Maria Rambo. Because of the excellent training results of the 3 of them, they were also selected together to participate in a secret project called Tianma Project. Now it is even more difficult for Loki and Sif to contact Aisha. Fortunately, my younger sister Anna is quite obedient, even a bit more obedient than the two expected. Anna, who was only 14 years old last year, got early admission to MIT with Tony. And this year, together with Tony, he won the 4th MIT Robot Design Award, and completed the magnificent turn from a true physics genius in childhood to a current physics master. And these are the real results that Anna has achieved through her own efforts. All this stems from the fact that Tony entered high school at the age of 7 and became a high school student because of his super learning ability. In order not to let Tony, the little brother, feel awkward in front of her, Anna, who was still a primary school student at the time, completed the primary and junior high school courses through self-study in only 1 year, and even skipped a grade to catch up with her 1 year ago. Entering high school, Anna, who is now a college student, spends most of her time living in the dormitory provided by the school, and only returns to New York during the winter and summer vacations. So now in the entire New York holy place, there are actually only 2 people who live here, Loki and Sif. And the reason why the 2 of them returned to Jotunheim in such a hurry today was because of a plan that Loki had shelved for 15 years. 15 years ago, when Anna was just born, Loki promised in front of Odin that he would help Thor become a qualified heir to the throne, and proposed the Asgard collapse plan. According to the agreement at the time, Loki will start this project with Odin after Elsa and Anna can basically take care of themselves, and the 3 views are basically finalized. But now things have changed a little bit, so Loki has to start the Asgard collapse plan in advance. Because Odin's body is almost unable to hold on. Odin has already begun to delay the passage of his own life through Odin's sleeping bed due to the hidden wounds left in his body by the battle of the 9 realms thousands of years ago, and the burden brought to his body by sealing Hela, the goddess of death. Therefore, Loki must help Thor complete his own metamorphosis before the arrival of Odin's deadline, and prepare for inheriting the throne of Asgard. Loki and Sif returned to Jotunheim this time, just to start the implementation of the Asgard collapse plan. In this plan, Thor will fall into complete desperation. Not only will he experience the death of his relatives and the betrayal of his best friend that he has experienced in Loki's illusion, Loki will also make Thor completely lose his divine power, and then knock him out of the mortal world, and live in Midgard as a mortal. Fumbling. In order to realize this plan, Loki must confirm every detail of the plan in advance, and strive to make everything perfect. Because the promotion of all the key plots must be completed by the ability of mirror flowers and water moon completely hypnotic ability. In this reality-based fantasy that Loki is weaving, to make everything more believable, he will be the only one who knows all the plans. Even Odin and Frigg, Loki will give them full hypnotic ability when needed. Anyone else, after hearing of such a dire plan, would never let Loki do what he did. After all, the hypnotic ability is too terrifying. If Loki suddenly changes his mind during the process, then the entire Asgard will become his grasp. Just like in Naruto, after knowing Shisui's kaleidoscope ability as another god who can completely change a person's will, Danzo sneaked away Shisui's Sharingan and tried to kill him. If he hadn't had absolute confidence and trust in Loki, Odin would not have agreed without hesitation. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.